Michelle, how's it going?
Great, Allie. How are you?
Good. Thanks for coming in today. So today we wanted to go over a specific contract that you need to purchase a house in California through real estate. It's called the RPA, Residential Purchase Agreement. And every once in a while, the state, we change the contracts and we update them. And we just recently had an update on this contract in December. So we wanted to talk a little bit about that. And I wanted to get your take. What are your thoughts on the changes to the RPA?
I could not be happier. I am so excited about the changes to the RPA because I think people can use it to their advantage as part of their winning strategy.
Awesome. So there's 3 sections. It's page 2, section H, 1, 2, and 3. There's not a whole lot of change from H1 and H2. The meat and potatoes are H3, and that is what we want to go into today because that is going to set you apart. To be familiar with this section of the contract is going to help set you apart from other buyers when you're going into a competitive situation and you're purchasing your next home or your dream home or your first home. So let's dive in. H1 is if you're going to be purchasing a home all cash. So you need to have proof of funds. Nothing's changed there. So when you go in and you purchase a home all cash, you need to provide proof of funds. That hasn't changed. So you're basically just saying, I have, let's say you're, for hypothetical reasons, you're going to purchase a house at $1 million. You want to be able to show proof that you have, $1 million in your bank account. So if your client were to come to you, Michelle, and they were to say, hey, I want to buy this house, what kind of information would you suggest they have? And then what information would you omit for privacy reasons?
Yeah, so when you're showing proof of funds, whether you're a cash buyer or showing it for your down payment, I always recommend you want to include your name because they want to see that the name on the account matches at least one of the buyers on the contract. Mm-hmm. So your name is really important, and then the balance is really important. Everything else, and the date, so they can see that it is a current statement. Everything else can basically be omitted. I omit or redact the buyer's home address. Mm-hmm. The seller doesn't need to know where you live now. It's none of their business.
Right.
I redact the account numbers. They don't need to see the account numbers. I like to also redact the type of account because then you get people being like, oh, are you going to really liquidate that investment or whatever? It's like they don't need to know if it's whatever it is. Like, right. That's not important. What's important is the date is there, your name is there, and the balance is there. And that's what they need to know.
Perfect. So that's essentially the same thing for H2. So you want to verify that you have the amount in your account to cover closing costs and your down payment. So if you are going to be purchasing a house for $1 million, they need to make sure that you have, if you're doing an 80-20, that you have 20% down. When you're showing your proof of funds, you do not need to show your entire net worth. So you can segregate and move around funds so you show just what you need to cover the cost of that house.
That's a great tip.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The last thing we wanted to talk about is the what we refer to as the meat and potatoes, the secret sauce, or the part of the contract that's really going to set you apart. And that is broken down into 3 sections. So it's H3, but it's broken down into 3 sections. So if you're going to be applying for a loan, there's 3 types of ways that you can show that, and we wanted to dive into that. So you need to check one of 3 boxes. Are you pre-qualified? Do you have a pre-qualification? Do you have a pre-approval? Or are you fully underwritten? Now, oftentimes, pre-quals and pre-approvals are interchangeable. That vocabulary is interchanged. And people think that it means the same thing when it's not. So we're so happy that this was included in the contract change. And so we wanted to dive in. Tell me more about the details in terms of what makes each of those different: pre-qual, pre-approval versus being fully underwritten.
Okay, I would love to. And this is huge. And this is how you can really stand out to a seller when you're competing against cash buyers or other finance buyers. So pre-qualification basically means you submitted an application, either a digital one, over the phone, in person, and